Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I do have to talk kind of quietly. Oh my gosh, I hate this rug. If you guys own a jute rug, is yours as bad as mine? I have like fibers everywhere. I want to cross my legs, but I have fibers on my socks, so if I cross my legs, it's gonna get onto my leggings. Okay, so anyways, I do have to talk a little bit quieter during this video because Vince is currently in a meeting. We both have a packed schedule today, so I have to film right now. I can't afford to wait till he's done. Yeah, today's video is going to be a little bit different because I wanted to do sort of like a sit down kind of podcast style video with you. I was going to make this into a repot and chat, but I think this deserves just like full focus, not doing anything, because today we are going to be talking about all of the good parts of this hobby, the plant community, etc. I think that lately, and I'm guilty of this as well, I think there has been a lot of negativity surrounding the hobby in terms of scammers, plant drama, price gouging, poaching, elitism, just a lot. I don't know, I've kind of gotten this like weird vibe from the community lately, and I've sort of had to like step away from it a bit because it's been kind of like stressing me out, like not me personally, but I read it and I'm just like, it just gives me icky feelings. So I've been kind of just like in my own little bubble, just talking to my friends, focusing on YouTube, focusing on my plants. And I was thinking like, man, like when did this hobby become like this? Like it used to feel so good. But then I had to remind myself that like when I think about like my relationship that I have with my plants, without sharing on socials, without sharing on here, without sharing with friends, I'm like, no, it is a great relationship and it is a good thing. And I'm like, I want to hear everyone else's stories, because yes, publicly there are a lot of negative that you can find in Facebook groups, public forums, Instagram, YouTube comments, YouTube videos, and I think we forget that that is the minority of people in comparison to the vast number of people that are actually in this hobby, that are enjoying it in silence, that are doing it off socials, that are just at home kind of pitter-pattering with their plants. And I just wanted to hear those stories. So I opened up my questions on Instagram and I just asked, like, what are your favorite things about this hobby? Why are you doing it? What do you get from it? And I just wanted to share some feel-good stories. I got so many replies and it was so heartwarming. I had such a fun time reading everybody's replies, but obviously I won't be able to share everyone's stories, but I can share some. So I've kind of picked apart a few of the replies. I've categorized them into different little sections, and I'm gonna just be reading those stories to you guys, and then I think after every category I will share my personal experience or just my 2 cents on it. So we are just going to get started. Whew. Okay, so a big theme when I asked this question, it revolved around self-care and mental health. And I'm not even surprised at all, because if I think about myself in this hobby, I would say it has really, really been heavy on that in comparison to everything else, even over, you know, the apartment looking really nice, like using it as a decorative element, even over the fun of it, like the actual hobby, like occupying my time. The mental health aspect slash self-care aspect has been huge for me. So yeah, not surprised at all that a lot of people had stories regarding this hobby kind of contributing to that. So I'm just gonna start reading some of the replies that I got. Someone said, there's something about taking care of plants. In the end, it feels like I'm taking care of myself. Another person said, I'm going through a nasty divorce right after having a baby plus postpartum depression. Houseplants have kept me alive. It started as a coping mechanism for COVID, depression, and school burnout, and now it's my safe space and a way to be creative and excited about the world again. It's what gets me through depressive episodes. It's so much more than plants. I can care for plants and get some happy hormones even when I can't take care of myself. It's a way of meditating. During plant care, I don't have a gazillion things going through my head. I love plants as a hobby because they keep me busy. Losing my mom in 2020 was the most heartbreaking trauma I've ever experienced. My love for plants has helped me mentally, and they are definitely helping me on my healing journey. So sorry for your loss. I can't even imagine. My mom is like my best friend slash our third sister, and like if I just even the thought of it, just I don't know how I would handle that. I had a few houseplants leading up to the pandemic, probably around 10 to 15, but during is really when my collection increased. I was an ICU nurse at the time, very isolated, working 60 hours a week, exhausted and extremely depressed. I fell in love with and began collecting and learning to care for orchids by Miss Orchid Girl on YouTube. I will link Miss Orchid Girl in the description as well. And if you're watching Miss Orchid Girl, hi, I see your comments on my channel sometimes. Having all the green in my house as well as the Phalaenopsis blooms in the wintertime helped my mental health during this time and still does. Having a little hobby to learn about outside of work was a way to cope for me and distract myself from what I was experiencing at work. I enjoy caring for them, watching them grow and bloom, repotting, etc. It brings me a great deal of peace and happiness. Now, thanks to you and Alice, in the last year, I've expanded from orchids to anthurium. That is very exciting. I cannot grow anthurium anthurium. I can't grow orchids for jack crap. I've never been able to get an orchid to flower, so maybe I need to watch more Miss Orchid Girl. This one is pretty long, so I never thought I could keep plants alive, so I never bought them. When I was pregnant, my doula brought me a baby rubber plant, and I was sure I would kill it. Somehow after the birth of my son, I managed to keep that thing alive for a year. I asked how to keep it, and she told me just don't water until it's completely dry. Now for some context, I ended up having severe postpartum depression and anxiety. I was on my own 95% of the time, as my partner had to take jobs out of town due to COVID. I had no support, no sleep, and my baby wouldn't let me put him down for more than 15 minutes. I felt like I was bad at everything, especially socially. I was a bad friend, a bad girlfriend, a bad daughter, sister, cousin, you name it. I honestly felt like the only thing I was great at even, was mothering my child. And I don't mean being a mom. Being a mom seems like an impossible task with all that is expected of women in this day and age, and the fact that since nuclear families have become so prominent, we don't have access to that village that we so desperately needed. But I nurtured this baby so good, his needs were met, I listened to him, watched him, and knew him so well. My relationship with him and my ability to truly nurture was through the roof. Fast forward just after his first birthday, I got myself a couple more plants and even asked someone at the nursery what I needed to do to get my baby rubber plant to thrive. Turns out I'm great at nurturing and caring for living things and intuitively knowing what they need. That one plant has turned into around 125 plants, and I learned that I have a green thumb, and also that even if you think you would be horrible at something, you may surprise yourself and find a gift/talent you never knew you had. I'm now looking into becoming a plant doctor/caretaker/consultant, and eventually slowing down in my small hometown with my own little plant shop. The peperomia changed my life and nurtured my gifts. I like this one because it's like she didn't seek out the hobby. It kind of fell into her lap, and she kind of realized that like she's good at it and she enjoys it. I would never expect anyone to fall into that hobby that way, honestly. I always think of it as the other way around, like we're always the ones seeking it out. We're the ones that are interested, not so much like, oh, I have to keep this alive because it was gifted to me, and then you find out you're really good at it and you enjoy it. So that's why I wanted to include that story. And this wasn't the only story regarding postpartum depression and plants. It seems like plants have been a pretty common thing that helped women get out of postpartum depression, or at least get through it. Because, with my mental health stuff, me being off all of my meds, I am very worried about postpartum. It's what my doctor and my psychiatrist were very concerned about, which is why they urged me to not get off my meds, which I did anyway. I'm very pro doctor, pro science, all of that, but I also believe in advocating for yourself and having the right to choose what you do with your body. And so yeah, despite their recommendations for me to stay on my meds, it just felt right for me to get off of it once I got pregnant. And so I have been sort of mentally preparing for what postpartum could look like. I'm not saying like I am gonna get it, but I'm preparing for the worst, essentially. And I am feeling a little bit anxious about it, but I'm trying to go into it with like a healthy, positive mindset. So hearing stories like this, where it was like plants was the only thing that kept me going during postpartum, it is super, super reassuring. The last one under this category is I've got vestibular migraines. In quote, not in quote, in parentheses, I can be dizzy for days/months on end, and meditation and mindfulness have helped to mitigate and stop that cycle. Basically, plant care helps to supplement my anti-anxiety meds and help prevent the migraines. It's a form of therapy for me, and we all know the calming benefits of the color green. I used to get a lot of headaches even before pregnancy. I was just like a chronic headache, chronic tummy ache kind of girl. But it wasn't really until I got pregnant that like the migraines started. The migraines started in my second trimester, and they are horrible. And I would get them pretty frequently, like every day, but it wouldn't be like an all day thing. They'd be like for a couple hours or like at night until I fall asleep. And then I'd be okay the next day, and then they would come back. But I can't imagine having just like a never ending migraine for like, what did she say, months? That's insane. I would go crazy. I remember thinking like, oh, there's nothing worse than this nausea. Like, I'm like questioning everything. But then once I started getting the migraines, I'm like, wait, is this worse? I can't tell. So now I want to kind of share my backstory with plants and mental health. I went through a very, very, very dark, rough patch starting in 2019, leading into 2020. It was really exacerbated in 2020 with COVID because I am a hypochondriac. It's when you think that you're basically dying from everything. Like, to this day, I fully believe in my heart that I have cancerous cells in my body that are just not laying dormant, that are not presenting its symptoms, and it's just slowly like eating away at my body. It's like it's a very, very strong and terrible mental thing that like I have to constantly like snap myself out of. Any symptom that I get, I'm like, oh, it's the cancer. Oh yeah, I'm dying. So yeah, being a hypochondriac in the time of COVID was truly terrifying, and it was crippling. Not only that, being away from my family in California, not knowing if my grandparents were gonna make it through that, with them being as old as they are. Parents, they still had to go to work, and my sister, my niece at the time, she was so little. I was so paranoid. I was so on edge and just high strung 24 hours a day. Like, my blood pressure was just so high, my breathing was like so elevated, and I just felt like I was constantly suffocating. It was like this constant state of not being able to catch my breath, not being able to slow down my thoughts. And that is when I first started medication. I talked about my entire like mental health journey in a video that I did on YouTube a couple years ago. I will link it in the description. Trigger warning for anyone who wants to watch that. That one was kind of a heavy one. Yeah, it was a really bad time. And by 2019, I already had like a house full of plants. Keep in mind, I moved here in 2017, so as soon as I moved, I had already started trying to rebuild a collection, but it wasn't really until 2019 that I started collecting like imported aeroids when my sister started importing from Ecuador. But by this time already, I had literally an apartment full of plants. Maybe not as much as I do now in terms of quantity, but I had less, but they were bigger. I had like 5 different like massive climbing monstera. I had a huge rubber tree. I had my huge euphorbia. Like I had a lot of large plants. And at this time, I was not well versed in thrips. I saw my first thrip in 2018 or 2019? It might have been 2019 I saw my first thrip, and I had no idea what they were. And so keep that in mind. So mental health was really bad, and I just stopped taking care of myself. I stopped kind of caring about life. I was sleeping all day, sleeping all night. I had no motivation to do anything. I didn't even want to look in the mirror. It was really bad. So when I got on meds, I thought, oh, everything's gonna be fixed overnight, and I'm gonna take these medications and I'm just gonna feel happy. It's gonna like bring all this serotonin into my brain. But it did the opposite. There is that adjustment period to medication that people do talk about, but it's different for everyone. I just was spiraling. I was like, I feel worse than when I first got on meds. And while I never had thoughts of self-harm or unaliving myself, I certainly had thoughts of like, it would just be easier if I just didn't wake up tomorrow or something, you know, just because I just didn't want to feel the things I was feeling anymore. It took a while for the meds to adjust in my body, and I'm really glad that I stuck it out, because after about 6 months, I started to kind of feel myself regulate. It started with my breathing. Imagine you having breathing issues for like 2 years straight, where you're just like this, and every time you breathe in, you have to take in a breath that big because it feels like you're not getting enough air in your lungs. So you just get this permanent pain in your chest from just being overexerting yourself just by doing the simplest thing, which is breathing. So it started with my breathing. I'm sure it was a gradual change, but one day I realized that my breathing was normal. That was a huge thing for me, because I was just like, oh, it's so nice to not feel pain when I'm breathing and to be able to just breathe normally. And so when that happened, I kind of got this zest back for life. And the first thing that came to my mind wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna do self-care stuff, I'm gonna get the apartment like redecorated. My first thought was like, let's get these plants back in tip-top shape, because by this time I had lost so many of my plants to thrips. The ones that were remaining looked very bad and sickly. And so that's something that I definitely observed, is that because of the nature of what we're doing, your plants kind of go through it with you. If you're not feeling well, they're not gonna do well either, because they need you. I thought I saw a spider on the floor, and I just thought that was kind of cool in a way. Like, obviously I didn't love seeing my plants dwindle away and die, but having that experience of sort of like deteriorating together, but then like kind of getting back out of that together, it was this like special experience that like I always will look back at fondly. And you kind of see like the labor of, or the fruits of your labor, and you see that they do respond well to you, specifically your care. Sometimes, especially if you have something like a big cactus that really doesn't require much, you kind of think, oh, it's not even me keeping this thing alive, it just has the will to live, like it's fine without me. But when you see these plants that look the way they did before, and you see them kind of coming back, you see these nice big leaves coming back out, you see the pests going away, it's just so refreshing. For weeks around that time, or months around that time, plants were the only thing that were getting me out of bed in the morning. I eventually got to a point where everything looked really good, and I felt like I could take more plants home. I was feeling well. I was taking care of myself again. It was an experience that like I definitely will never forget. And I think if I didn't have plants, I probably wouldn't have gotten out of bed so many of those mornings, and I'm just like grateful that I had them at that time to kind of support me through what I was going through, and that some of them hung on long enough just in time for me to start feeling better. So that's kind of like my go-to memory when I think of like how has this hobby improved my mental health. And kind of fast forward to now, you know, we're in 2024. I feel like I'm in the best mental health place in a long time. And my plants, I mean, you know, it's a hit or miss with the plants that do well and that don't do well, but I feel like so much of my good mental health comes from my plants being around me, from my plants needing me, from the time I get to spend with them. Like others alluded to, it is sort of this meditative practice that I don't think that we're even super conscious of because it becomes so second nature. But the next time that you're sort of twiddling with your plants and you're like in your own head and you're so focused on watering and inspecting for pests, like check in with yourself and like see how you feel in that moment, because I did that last night. I didn't even realize that like an hour and a half had gone by and I was still doing plant things, and I was just like, wow, like I really just get sucked into it without knowing how much time has gone by. And I just think that's really special, and I feel like that's what a hobby is supposed to do for you. I feel like it's supposed to kind of take you to that place where you feel the most calm, you feel the most at home, you feel the most at ease, and you just feel good about what you're doing. Even if you're rehabbing sad plants and if you're doing something that's kind of stressful at the time, it's still very meditative. Like we all have a connection with our plants that only we can explain. If you try to explain it to a non-plant person, they just won't get it. So yeah, I feel like plants and mental health definitely go hand in hand, even if you're not even consciously aware of it. So I'm just so grateful for the hobby in that way. Moving on to the next little category, I categorized it as fun because I didn't know what else to call it after reading all of these stories. So I only have four little stories to tell you under this category. The first two are nice and simple. First one, there's always something to do. I like staying busy. Same. And two, I've been a constant hobby dropper due to ADHD and other things, and I haven't done that with plants. Same. I feel like so many of us, like neurospicy folks or like ADHD folks, like we have picked up and dropped hobbies faster than we can even like just fast. We just drop it really fast. And I can think of so many in my life that I've tried to pick up and I just lost interest so fast. So to be going on really, because I first started getting into plants in 2011, 2012, and now we're in 2024. Like that's a long time to have like a single hobby and still be super into it. So I relate. This third story, the enjoyment in the plant community / hobby for me is simply how beautiful some plants are. At first, I started with just decorating my home and seeing how lively it made everything feel. Slowly, I started looking for specific care / needs, and that's how I was introduced to Planty YouTube. Then I started watching people's collections videos and wishlist videos, when I really started getting more into uncommon houseplants. I've come to a place in my collection where I'm happy with what I have and just focusing on how they're all growing. It's also so much fun to be part of a community like this where things are ever changing. There's always things to talk about, plants to compare, chopping, propping, etc. Yeah, in general, I think just the nature of how it's different day to day, like we're not doing the same things over and over again every single day. I do think that that's what keeps it really fun. This last story is a little bit longer. At the risk of sounding corny, cheesy, Jesus-y, I like that word, Jesus-y, It connects me with the divine slash God slash Mother Nature. When I take care of my plants, repotting, checking for pests, keeping them beautiful, it feels like a spiritual or meditative practice. I've been a plant person for 20 years, and it has always brought me a sense of peace, and I think this is my top reason why I love this hobby. Piggybacking off reason number 1, I've always been an anxious person, maybe ADHD, maybe a little on the spectrum. Plant keeping demands me to slow down. It demands me to practice patience. And as a result, keeping plants almost in a way feels like a practice, like yoga. And it's so good for mental health. 3, plants are freaking amazing. I'm writing this from bed and looking at my white ghost euphorbia and my Scindapsus exotica, and thinking about the little dark phoenix I won at the North Shore Tropicals auction. What an incredible range. All of those are plants, but they're all so completely different and truly amazing. 4, they allow me to express my creativity. They beautify my home, and the staging of each plant feels like a creative endeavor. I keep saying in quotes when I keep meaning in parentheses. In parentheses, the reason I gravitated toward your channel is because I feel like we share the same aesthetic. 5, plants are my escape. I'm a lawyer by trade, and this hobby is so different from my day job. Also, I have 2 little boys, one whom has autism, and so it is actually a nice escape. We live in LA, and for years, it's just a practice of mine to go to nurseries or shows just for some me time. I love it. You know, I got my ADHD diagnosis, was it last year or this year? Yeah, I guess that answered a lot of things for me in terms of like not doing well in school, not feeling the same as my friends and my peers and stuff in terms of being able to like focus or like understand certain concepts in school, in terms of picking up a hobby, being so focused and so obsessed with it, and then literally the next day having zero interest in it and it bringing me so much stress. And yeah, I feel like plants really is the only hobby that I've come across that just has me in a chokehold every single day. Like there's never, I'm not gonna say there's never a time I don't tire of it, because I definitely have times where I do the bare minimum. I don't want to care for plants. I kind of just want to chill out. I don't get as excited for new growth as I normally am, and so it kind of like ebbs and flows in terms of like my excitedness and sort of like those dull low moments. But I also think that's necessary. I don't think, well, not necessary, I think it's normal. I don't think that people should be expected to like operate on a level so high all the time when it comes to anything really. Job, parenting, being in a relationship. Like I feel like it's normal for people to kind of go through these like highs and lows, right? Where you're like really into something, and then some days you kind of just need to like chill out, be by yourself, not talk to anyone, recharge your battery. And so I feel that way with plants, but I would say more so it's a good experience with plants, and it is always exciting because there's always something so different. Something needs to be watered, something needs to be repotted, there's a new leaf here, oh, that plant gave variegation back, you know? It's exciting. And there's always something new, which I think is something that I crave in a hobby. I don't like doing the same things all the time. Like painting was a hobby that I thought would stick, but it came to a point where it was like, it was so dependent on me and like my mood and my level of inspiration or creativity on that given day. And sometimes I just didn't have it. Like I didn't have anything to give. But for plants, I almost feel like they're driving and I'm just kind of like trying to keep up. And I like that. I like not being the dominant one in this hobby. I like that they kind of dictate what needs to happen. They tell me what I'm doing that day. And yeah, I think that's why I've been able to stick with this hobby for as long as I have. And I just like that it gives me something to do. Like it is fun. And I don't know if this is like an ADHD kind of thing, but I don't really like sitting still. I don't like staying put. I don't like being bored. To a certain extent, I don't even like relaxing. That sounds so weird, but like anytime I relax, I have to kind of be doing something too. But also, I think it could just be this era we live in now with technology, everything being at like the tip of our fingers, always having something to watch, always having something to consume. So it could be that too. But I just like that plants are the one thing that have taken me away from technology, have taken me away from the phone, have taken me away from the TV, and like I can just detach from everything and just for hours be so focused on just doing plant things. And yeah, it's really nice. So I am so glad that I found this hobby. Honestly, I've talked to friends about this and I'm like, if we didn't have this hobby, what in the heck would we be doing? Like, what would I be doing with my downtime? What would I be doing with my free time? I'd probably just be like working all the time, you know? But like, that can't be life. Like, I feel like everybody deserves to have a hobby like this where it just brings them so much joy. It does kind of take up time that like you would be doing just kind of sitting and doing nothing. So I consider myself very lucky, and I think anyone watching this video, you obviously like plants enough to be watching a plant YouTube video. So I would say you're lucky too. We're all very lucky. This shirt is way too tight. I don't think this is gonna fit me in like the next 2 weeks. Okay, the next category is learning. So one, first story, there's always something to learn and it's so rewarding to see how your plants respond to your care. 2, it's taught me patience. I've learned to have so much patience and to look for beauty in all aspects of life. 3, nurturing something and watching it grow in your care is a heartening sense of accomplishment. 4, plants are a consistency in my life. They've given me a reason to get out of bed when there was nothing more I wanted to do. They've given me a new sense of passion and have also taught me a lot of valuable life lessons and patience. Like I mentioned, I didn't do well in school. I never really could focus on what was being taught because I wasn't interested. My brain, it was like out of my control. It would just shut off. Like I could not get myself to focus on what was being told to me, what I was reading or whatever. And so I think it's interesting that because I choose to be in this hobby, I seek out information and I can sit there for hours in bed just reading articles, reading about different plant care on websites, reading comments and forums of other people's experiences, and I can just like hyper focus and be so into it and just like get all these nuggets in my head. And to me, that like I didn't even really come to that realization until recently when I was like, if you think about, I say it all the time, I would say I'm a beginner. I would say that most of the advice and care that I give on this channel is very anecdotal. Like it's very what worked for me. It's based on my experience. Like I don't run any super scientific studies on this channel. I don't send things off for testing. Like it's very anecdotal if you think about it. And I always say what works for me isn't going to work for the next person or might not work for the next person, and that's fine. But if I really stop and think about, or even if you do, if you stop and think about all of the information that you know about this hobby, you wrote it all down. You wrote down what perlite does, what tree fern fiber does, where to get tree fern fiber, how it works, what is worm castings, what is vermiculite, what is horticultural charcoal, what is a petiolar sheath, what's a cataphyll, like all of these little nuggets that we just store in our brains about plants. If you just pass that off to a non-plant person, they'd be like, what are you talking about? And it's kind of cool to like think that over the last few years, we've just kind of slowly been absorbing information here and there like a sponge, and we don't really give ourselves credit, or we don't really consciously think about like how much we actually know about this hobby. And so yeah, I just look back and I'm like, all of the things that I know about plants, being able to just visually look at a plant and know exactly what it needs most of the time, or what's wrong with it, or what pest it has. Like, that is a skill that we took the time to learn. Like, we have invested so much of ourselves in this hobby, and it really is something we should be proud of. And I think especially if you're someone like me who, I'm not going to say I have a learning disability, but I've struggled with school and learning for the majority of my life. I am a college dropout. I couldn't do it. So to be in this hobby and be where I am now, have the plants that I do, and feel very like good about it. Like, I really feel good about how I care for my plants. Even if someone doesn't agree with me, even if someone looks at my collection and it's just like, her plant should be so much bigger, they should be so much healthier, that I tune it out. I only care about what I think of myself. I do feel a sense of pride and accomplishment when I look at where I am now in the hobby compared to when I first started. And so, yeah, I think that's something that you should also be reminding yourself, is just like, wow, look at how much I've learned on my own because I was so interested in it and because I took the time to learn. And yeah, like they said, patience, that seemed to be like a big theme. You have to be patient in this hobby. It's not like an instant results kind of thing that we're doing. A lot of the times there is that waiting period of like finding out what's going to happen, and it can be a bit anxiety inducing, a bit, but I think it's, yeah, the overall lesson of just teaching us to be patient, to me, has paid off even in my personal life. So yeah, that's definitely a huge pro of this hobby. The next one is a big one. Not that many stories, but like I would say a big theme overall, and that is the community. And I feel like I have a lot to say about this, so just going to share some of the replies. One of my favorite parts of this hobby is being able to cut my plants and share/gift them to my friends. My love language is gift giving, so it brings so much joy seeing the excitement. 2, I've met the best people and one of my best friends through the hobby. 3, it has allowed me to find my people. You know who you are. 4, people in this hobby who really care for each other and share their knowledge with everyone, not just a group of elitists and who gift plants to friends they may never meet in real life. Also the people here in the hobby that care for Gaza and any other people who are in need of aid. I asked a guy yesterday for a seedling of one of his hybrids, and he said he didn't want the money and to just give the amount the plant is worth to me to an organization who helps people in Gaza. Love that. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I think that it's so easy for us to focus on the negative parts of the community. And when I look back at some of the videos that I've done, yeah, they did definitely focus more on the negative. Like, I would answer juicy questions about the plant community, and most of those were, I would say, negative. You know, I would talk about mean comments, or I would talk about just things like that. And I think that's just natural. And for me, I'm affected by it to a certain extent, but I've definitely been able to detach myself. But I think something that I needed to be reminded of is that there is definitely, and this is a fact, there is more good about this hobby and this community than there is bad. The bad seems to be more prevalent because it's so public, because it's so out there and it's always on socials, but the good tends to get overlooked. Those are the posts that you just kind of scroll by when someone's like, oh, look at this new leaf. Oh, look, I put up a new shelf in my living room. Like, in Facebook groups, I feel like those are the posts that you just like and you keep moving on. But when you find a post that's very controversial, lots of drama on it, those are the ones we're like getting sucked into. We want to know all the details. We want to know who's involved. We want to know what's going on. And that's just natural. I'm not saying that these people are bad, because I certainly have been one of those people, and I still am to a certain extent. Like, when there's big drama in the group, yeah, I want to know what's going on. But there is more good. There are so many of us that are just doing this in silence, that are just at home with our plants. It's just something that we do for ourselves, and that in itself is a positive. But just because it's not being shown on socials or in a public way doesn't mean that there's just automatically more negative in the community. I think it's just more natural for the negative to be louder, you know what I mean? For people to focus on the negative. And so when I see comments or when I open up my question boxes about the community, it kind of makes me sad to see a lot of people reply saying that like they have distanced themselves from the community because of all the negativity. They have thought about leaving the hobby for good because of the negativity. They think everybody is just toxic now and everybody is just doing it for clout and for popularity and for views and for money. It really makes me sad because I know, and because of these replies, I know there's so much more good out there. And if you hear some of these, I know I was just breezing through it, but if you really like dissect some of these quick little blurbs, like plants being a reason why someone is still alive, plants being a reason why they were able to cope with their mother's death, plants being a reason why they were able to get through postpartum depression. These people were dealing with these things behind the scenes quietly, but it was such a positive and like strong thing that was happening behind the scenes because of plants. And I think that's something that I want to like hold on to in 2024 going forward. I want to just remind myself that like no matter how many mean comments I get on this channel, no matter how much drama I inadvertently get pulled into, I'm just gonna focus on the positive because that's just the energy I need going forward in this hobby. I know even right now, so I'm filming this January 15th. If you guys are a part of the Instagram world, Facebook world in terms of buy sell trade groups, review groups, you'll kind of know that, and I talked about this in my week of, which will go up after this. I talked about this in my week of with Alice, that it seems like there's something in the air in the plant community. Like people are just kind of like itching to start drama, and I don't know if it's like boredom or what, but I don't like it. Like I feel like people are just starting controversial things for no reason at all, posting things that they know are gonna get views, like in Facebook groups, like posting something very specific where they know the comment section is gonna be nasty. It's just like, why? Like I just don't get the point of that. And I guess some people do thrive on seeing the downfall of others because it kind of takes, maybe it takes like pain away from them, or it like helps them feel less like miserable or something. I don't know what it is, but like I'm just distancing myself. Like there's been more plant drama that has come up, and sometimes it hits my DMs, it gets brought to me, but I don't want to care about it. I just don't want to care about it. So I've been like not really asking for friends for updates on certain situations because I just like don't really care anymore. I just want to like focus on my collection, focus on the good parts of this hobby, focus on the good comments that I see, and focus on my friends. And that's just kind of my mentality going forward. So I guess my message to you is if you feel like the hobby has become so negative, I think it's time to maybe reassess what you are surrounding yourself with, meaning the accounts that you follow, the Facebook groups that you're in, the forums that you're in, the people you surround yourself with. Maybe it's time to kind of like shift things around, because you can find a lot of good. I promise you can. You just have to kind of detach yourself from the aspects that make it feel so negative. So that is my only advice. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear Vince's headphones. He has to have the volume. It's my disco ball. He has to have the volume a little bit higher because I'm talking. He has to be able to hear. Continuing on talking about community, I personally have found my friends here. Like before kind of immersing myself in my local plant group, the only other like close friends that I had were friends that I met through Vince. Not to say that those friendships are any different, but I think there is something to be said about a friend that you make on your own. On your own. Maybe I'm gonna shift a little bit. There's something to be said about friends that you make on your own, and then friends that are just kind of like in your little circle with your partner. And so I kind of felt like before plants, all of my friends were just Vince's friends, and I didn't really have any of my own friends. And so when I got into the plant group and I started making these relationships with people, it just made Canada feel more like home. It gave me something to look forward to. Like when I would go to California, like I would be anxious to come back and see my friends and see my plants. And they're like truly adult relationships. Thinking back, I mean, some of my best friends, like we've never had any drama. Like I've had a friend since I was 13 years old, one of my best friends to this day, and we have not once ever got into even the slightest disagreement or even had a moment of like, oh, why did she say that or something. Like it has always been so kosher between us, and I adore her for that. And I always thought, because I had a lot of drama growing up in high school, actually middle school, high school, college, even after college, I had drama with friends. And I always like thought back to that relationship with my friend, my childhood friend, like why can't it always be this easy? Like why can't it just always be this simple? Like we just have this respect for each other, this very adult respect that like has definitely superseded anything that could have like torn us apart. And so with my friends in the plant community, like let's take Alice for example. If you think about what we do, I can hear a buzzing. I don't know if it's a fly or if it's the building vibrating. Okay, if you think about me and Alice, we both are around the same age, both women, both in the same hobby, both on YouTube, both on socials. I think that naturally you'd kind of think that we would almost be pitted against each other, two Asian women at that. You would kind of think like, yeah, there would be this like unspoken tension or competition between us, but like there's not. Like there has been nothing but love and support between me and Alice. We have never gotten into an argument before. Like we've never gotten into a fight or a disagreement. Like it's always been like a very healthy adult relationship. And I always feel like she has my best interests and I always have hers. And like I just ultimately like I just want to see her happy. Like at whatever point, if you know, we never compare like, oh, I have this many followers now and I made this much money on YouTube. Like we have never even like spoken that. But I'm saying if there came a time where like her platform was much bigger than mine, I would be thrilled for her because I know like that she would be doing really well, and like she wants to move to the UK. I think she wants more dogs. You know, she just wants to live like a simple, comfortable life, and I want that for her. And so her doing well has nothing to do with me and my own success. So I've always felt like we had a very healthy relationship in terms of like wanting to see each other just do the best that we could. And honestly, if we did not have plants in common, we don't really have much in common at all. Like we are actually very opposite. We're very different people. It's kind of like a miracle in a way, or it's just kind of really cool that we have been able to maintain a friendship outside of plants. Like we're not always doing plant things. We talk way more about other things than plants, and it has just become, it's not even just like a plant friendship anymore. It's just like a friendship. And so I'm just like really grateful that this hobby was able to bring me people like Alice into my life and a whole bunch of other people. You guys know who you are. You know, being able to meet, like one of my closest plant friends is Amanda, and I wouldn't even consider her like a plant friend anymore. Like she's just a friend, and we talk all the time, and she's been so supportive during my entire pregnancy. Having such a close relationship with someone, like I feel like I've known Amanda my whole life, but I've never met her, which is crazy. Like, sometimes I forget that I've never met her because I feel so close to her, and it's just wild to have developed these friendships through plants. And I always love hearing that people have met like their best friends through plants, because like I know how it feels to have really close plant friends. And I just really, honestly, my wish for anybody in this hobby is to have at least one plant friend that you can share it with and be really comfortable with and do trades with and gift plants to each other in agreement of what that one person said. I love gifting plants. I love it. I love being able to share plants. I love being able to give plants away. Of course, you guys know, if you follow me on this channel, that I am always propagating plants to sell, because I'm always trying to offset costs of new plants coming in. You know, I'm pregnant, Archie's coming in, I want to redecorate the apartment. And yes, sometimes I do use plants as a way to like make some extra cash on the side, but I do really enjoy giving plants away. Like, I've given so many plants away to my neighbors, random strangers in the neighborhood, friends, family. It definitely brings me a certain happiness that I don't get elsewhere. So anyway, that's my blurb about community. And then the last section, I wanted this video to be kind of short, and also I have my 20-week ultrasound today, 20-week anatomy scan, which I'm very nervous about. So I actually have to get going soon. The last section is going to be sentimental. So I'm going to share a few responses with you. One, I have a few plants that belong to my late mother, and those help keep her memory alive. Two, it really makes me in awe of how cool nature is and how amazing plants are. Plus, it's something my mom and I share and that I can share with friends too. It's so special. 3, honestly, I love it because of you and Alice. I feel like I wouldn't be in the hobby anymore if it wasn't for YouTube videos, although I was big into plants long before you started YouTube. But just repotting / watering / doing other plant chores while listening to you has been my favorite thing in this hobby. Something about that sense of being together in a serene awe of nature is just magical. Thank you so much. You guys, I always am blown, like legitimately blown away when people say like I'm their favorite like plant YouTuber or whatever. My brain cannot comprehend that. It just can't. With all of the creators that are out there that are so likable and that are so knowledgeable, that have way better plants than I do, I'm just like, why me? It just blows my mind. I know some of you are gonna rag on me. Some of you are always like, stop bullying yourself, stop talking so negatively about yourself. But it's truly how I feel. I'm just like, how could I be your favorite when there's so many other people that could be your favorite? But obviously, thank you so much. Like, I appreciate that. Kind of on topic, kind of, but like this YouTube channel, for example, I never, like, yeah, it's small in comparison to the following of many other YouTubers, but like, if you told me 3 years ago, how long have I been doing this? 3 years ago, that I would be approaching 19,000 subscribers, like, I would tell you you're lying. If you told me that any of my videos would have hit over 100,000 views, I would have told you you're lying. Like, there are so many milestones that I've hit on this channel that just continue to blow my mind. When I look at overall views, overall watch time hours, honestly, overall revenue, like, it blows me away. And like, that's all because of you guys. And every time I'm making these videos week after week, I'm just like, don't people get tired of me? Like why would they watch this video out of all the other videos they could be watching on YouTube or things they could be watching on Netflix? But you guys just like continue to show up every week, and it's freaking amazing, and it just like makes me feel all fuzzy inside. And so yeah, I think one big theme here is sharing the hobby with family, and that is something that I definitely don't take for granted. I've been able to share this hobby with my mom, with my maternal grandma, my sisters, and now like all of my aunts. All of my aunties got sucked in, well, aunties on my mom's side, they all got sucked into plants. Some of them watch my plant YouTube, and it's just like something that I never would have expected between us to share. One of my favorite memories was being able to gift, and I've documented this on YouTube, I think it was last Christmas or the Christmas before that. I gifted little plant baskets, plant bundles to all of my aunts. And so I was able to include things like pink princesses, fried eggs. I think I threw in like escaletos in there. What else did I throw in? Yeah, just like really fun plants that they don't see often over there. I was able to gift that to them, and just like kind of seeing their excitement. Yeah, it was really special. And so I feel lucky that I do get to share this hobby with my family. And like the first response said, you know, I have a few plants that belong to my late mother. I don't want to think about the day that this happens, but I certainly would love to inherit some of my mom's plants when that time comes, just because I do think that it's such like a special piece of her that I get to keep alive and keep going even after she's gone. And sometimes I look at my collection and I think like, who's gonna be an heirloom plant like once I go? Maybe Millie, my niece, will want to inherit something, or my nephew might want to inherit something, or someone, you know. I don't know if Archie's gonna be into plants, but that would be really cool if he was. But it's kind of nice to think of that cycle of like, maybe when your time is up, someone will continue like your legacy through one of your plants. And I am going to try and get through this story without crying. This was the one story that I wanted to share with you guys under this category. And I was not emotional at all before pregnancy. I probably cried maybe once a year, twice a year at most. But pregnancy has changed me. I don't know whose body I'm in, but I cry at everything. I cried, one of the first time that I cried at the most ridiculous thing when I was pregnant was I had refilled my rice bag. I had refilled my rice jar. So I have this like long and big jar, seal tight jar that I put rice in from the big bag, so I don't always have to pull the big bag out. So, you know, refilled that jar, put it away. I guess I forgot the rice bag on the floor. I turned the corner of the kitchen and the bag of rice was just sitting on the floor, and for some reason it just looked so cute and lonely and sad and forgotten, and I just started crying. It was the strangest thing. I was like, what is wrong with me? But really, like, I can't even like go on YouTube now without sobbing, so I have to be very careful about the times that I'm going on TikTok or like consuming any kind of content, because I just freaking cry. So all that to say, I would have cried, because I did cry when this all came up before pregnancy, and so can't even imagine talking about it out loud with pregnancy hormones pulsating through my body. Mind you, I have gotten his permission to share this story, so don't think that I'm like sharing something I'm not supposed to. He gave me he just said, don't say my handle, don't say my name. We first had a conversation last year. It was in my message request folder. So if you guys don't know, I don't know if you're familiar with Instagram. Instagram has a primary message box or primary inbox in your DMs. It has a general inbox. So primary is for like people you follow, people you're close to. General is just like everyone else. And then you have this little hidden folder called message requests. There's messages that go filtered there, just depending, I don't know, the algorithm, if they think it's spam or if they think it's like harmful or whatever. But if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of message requests, and I didn't even know this until like last year, there's a thing called hidden requests inside of message requests. So these are the ones that they think are like they're bullying you, it's, you know, inappropriate content, whatever. I'm going through this like hidden requests folder. There's all this spam, there's random messages. And then I had one from a guy, and this message was like 7 months old at this point, maybe even older than that. And he shared this story with me about how he lost his partner in 2020. 2020. Not through, I guess through COVID, but like his partner had an underlying health condition, and when he got COVID, unfortunately he didn't make it through that, and he had moved to his partner's hometown, and so he was kind of living, like, they had a mortgage and everything, and so it's when his partner passed, it's not like he could easily just like pack up and go. And mind you, like, people were struggling through COVID, like businesses closing down, offices not offering as many hours, people getting laid off, people getting fired, things like that. So he was not in a position where he could just get up and go. So imagine losing your partner during COVID, being isolated in a town where you don't know anybody and the only people you know are your partner's family, and not being able to see them because of COVID, and just dealing with the grief of just being alone. I don't want to get the details wrong. I think it was like 4 or 5 months after his partner passed, he tried to take his own life, and it didn't work. Thank God. He had gone to therapy after that, trying to get better, got onto meds, and the meds he was on were kind of intense. I'm not going to say which meds they were, but they were pretty intense. And they're the kind of meds that the doctors warn you about, saying that they're very addictive, don't abuse them, only use it when you need them. And let's just say he was not following those instructions. And he had been thinking nonstop about how he could do it again and not failing this time. He said that it was getting close to a point where he thought he could do it. He had worked up enough courage to try again. And he said one night he's scrolling Instagram and he saw that I had posted on my stories that I had uploaded a new video. I don't know which video it was specifically. It could have been like a week of, or it could have been like a repot and chat or something. And he said at that point he had really stopped watching any plant creators, content, whatever. But for whatever reason, on this day, he just felt compelled to watch my video. And he said whatever was in that video, and I wish I could remember which one it was. He said whatever was in that video, it made him look at his plants again. And it made him sad to think about leaving his plants behind and them having no one. He said it kind of reminded him of his partner being gone and having that feeling of just being alone and wanting to just wither away and die. And he's like, if I go, all of my plants will wither away and die. So he said he watched that video while he did plant stuff for the first time. I'm gonna try and hold it together here. He said he watched my video while he did plant care for the first time in months. He said that day just changed everything for him, and he said that he felt like he had a friend. He felt like I was talking to him specifically, and yeah, he said essentially I had saved his life. I sent him a video back. I didn't feel like a text reply was appropriate. I sent him a video right away of me just like sobbing, and I guess I hadn't really thought about the fact that my videos could do that for someone. I know that a lot of people feel like they have company while they're doing their plant chores, and it's something to watch in the background, and that's kind of what I think about when I'm putting these videos out. I really don't ever think I'm gonna put out a video that's gonna change someone's life. Trust me, I don't think about that at all. But yeah, that interaction or just hearing that certainly changed my life and certainly changed my perspective when I'm making videos. And to me, that was probably one of the most special things that has happened to me probably in my entire life. And he's still here today and thriving in the plant hobby. And I just think, like, what if he didn't watch that video that day? And it just makes me really sad to think about. So yeah, that is my one sentimental story that I want to share with you guys, and I have been waiting a long time to share that with you because it's something I think about often. I already knew going into this that I was going to end this video in tears, because anytime I even think about that story, I just get so like flustered and stuff because it still seems like really surreal. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap it here. I hope that this video, for anyone who has stuck around long enough to watch it, I hope that this video has kind of helped you get into a mindset where you take a step back and you not only appreciate your plants, but appreciate how far you have come in this hobby with your plants. Take the time to really like pat yourself on the back for how much you've invested into this hobby and caring for these plants. I think it's pretty common or normal in this hobby to give so much credit to our plants for being so resilient, for bringing us a lot of happiness and joy. But I think we oftentimes forget to also acknowledge ourselves and the role that we play in the health of these plants as well. So yeah, just surround yourself with good people, surround yourself with good vibes, unfollow any accounts or people that don't serve you in a positive way, even if that's me. I say this all the time, like, don't feel obligated to stay here and watch if I don't serve you in a positive way for your mental health or in this hobby. Yeah, cut me out, because you should really only be surrounding yourself with people that uplift you, people that give you good vibes, and people that give you good energy. And just remember that there is more good in this hobby than there is bad. And you can detach yourself from the bad and from the toxic people in this hobby that try and make a good thing into something bad all the time. Thank you to everyone who contributed to this video, sharing your stories with me. I'm sorry to anyone who shared a story with me that didn't make it into this video, but there were so many. I really had to just like pick and choose, and I don't even know if I got through all of the messages in my DMs. But yeah, just thank you guys for taking the time to like share some of these like things with me that are really special. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video brought you good vibes. Now go love your plants, go love on your plants, and go love on yourself. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Thank you all for being here for another Saturday upload, and I will see you in the next one.